Can't hear you, Steve.
How about now?
Yep.
Oh, my Lord. So none of that got through. Well, it's Wednesday. I hope you guys are fired up. That song got me fired up. Could we hear the audio at least? Could we hear the music? Yes. Okay. Jeez. The tech is getting to me. Well, I'm really excited for the call today. I got some pretty cool stuff to share with you. We've got our inspectors on as always, but I'll open the floor. Anybody have anything going particularly well in their world? Want to get us started? Maybe real estate, personal. Who's got something? I love it when your lives are just rocking and rolling. Well, I'll tell you what's got me fired up. And I see you, John and Todd, on here. We will get to you guys, I promise.
No
Been
problem.
been studying, and when I say studying, I mean listening to podcasts regarding neurobiology and some of the parts of the brain and what they do and how we can control that stuff. And probably been on this journey for a couple of weeks now. The Huberman podcast I've mentioned a couple of times, I think just does the best job of breaking this stuff down. And I learned about a piece of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, AMCC, anterior mid-cingulate cortex. We have two of these on the lower back part of your brain, I believe is where they are. But really important part of the brain, and we're just starting to get the science behind this stuff. But I think if we can get a really good understanding of this part of the brain, I think it can help a lot with motivation and drive and focus, which I think is what a lot of people struggle with, especially in today's world. So I think this stuff's super important. But here's what the data shows, because this is the important part. This part of your brain lights up and actually grows, right? So we are learning that we can grow our brains. You're not just stuck with, that's called neuroplasticity, your ability to grow your brain. You're not just stuck with whatever you were born with. So this part grows when you do things that you don't want to do. And I think we kind of naturally know this. It just feels good when you do that thing that you don't want to do, right? You do that cold plunge. I've still yet to do the ice bath, right? You do that, and you sit in there for 2 minutes and you get out, I gotta believe you feel like a badass, right? I've been doing some hot saunas. You get out of there, you're like, yeah, the guy in the sauna next to me the other day actually went on a jog inside the sauna, made me feel this big. I'm sitting there just trying to get through 195 degrees. He decided he's gonna go for a jog in 195 degrees. But here's the interesting part. Once you do those hard things, if you then like it, right? So I'm starting to enjoy going in the sauna. It's meditative for me, right? The first couple of times, man, this is a little hot. But I'm starting to enjoy it now. That doesn't help that anterior mid-cingulate cortex grow because it's comfortable. It might be difficult for others, but for you, it's comfortable, right? So it's trying to put yourself just outside of your comfort zone consistently again and again and again. And we're seeing that part of the brain, and that can be with anything, not just physical, right? Go learn a new instrument. First time you're starting to do an instrument, man, fucking pain in the butt to play this instrument, right? So he had a guest on. He's a little bit of a controversial guest, and his language isn't the greatest, but I've actually gotten to see this guy live, and a lot of you guys have heard of David Goggins. So David Goggins is was a 300-pound overweight in his early 20s, down on his luck, ADHD, learning problems, just everything not going well for him. And he went on a journey, a health journey, a wellness journey. That's gone really well for him. He's written a couple of books now. He's a motivational speaker. He's been through SEAL teams 3 times. Only guy to do it 3 times because the first 2 times he didn't actually get through. He got darn close but didn't make it. So he's the only guy to go through that process 3 times. But he said something interesting in the podcast. And it's like, I can't help any of you guys. You go to the seminars, you read the books, you listen to the motivational tapes. He's like, I didn't have any of that. And if any of you think that that is what's going to get you over the hump of whatever you're struggling with right now, he's like, I think you're missing the boat. It's got to be that internal flame. And as Huberman is kind of having the conversation with him, and he keeps just stressing this, I'm wasting my time on this podcast. I'm wasting my time even writing these books because I know most people know exactly what they need to do. They know the foods they need to eat. They know the exercise they need to do. It's just the flame isn't burning strong enough. They don't have the why. But it was interesting as Huberman started to talk about this AMCC, he's like, David, I think that's exactly what you've built and how you have willpower like nobody else. Because clearly he wasn't born with willpower. He was overweight, no confidence, looked horrible, stuttered, couldn't read. So he wasn't built with confidence, born with confidence. He actually built it up by consistently putting his body. He's known for doing these ultra marathons. He's known for doing these smoke jumps, jumping into these places where we can't get to put fires out. That's what he does now. And he just talks about just being relentless about constantly putting himself into positions that he knows is uncomfortable. And he described as like we have our own medicine cabinet. I thought this was just so brilliantly put. He's like, I feel like I have a medicine cabinet that I can tap into whenever I need to because I've grown this part of me so much. Everybody else is trying to take some wonder drug or trying to take this or that supplement. And he's like, we've got it all right here. So, if you're struggling with something and this is resonating a little bit, I'd highly recommend, listen to some David Goggins, listen to this Huberman podcast, listen to some stuff or read about anterior mid singular cortex. Because I know it to be true. I know our agents that we put through the ringer and force them to do the uncomfortable stuff are better agents than the ones that we kind of just let kind of get by. Or you don't have to come in and make those calls. Don't, it's okay. Just make 10, right? Where our early agents, where we were really on it, we're making thousands of calls, thousands of text messages, thousands of emails, right? And so I think, as a motivator, as a mentor, what we really want to do is just put people in these uncomfortable positions, time in and time again. And if you don't have that person to help you do that, you got to figure out a way to do it. You got to get in the suck. Another interesting analogy that he used was there's the carrot and there's the stick. And I think we're all looking for the carrot. I'm going to set this goal and my reward is going to be X. And Goggins is like, it's just been all stick for me. Just constantly being in the suck. There's a stick. Like, you got to get yourself out and do it. He's trying to get to an extremely high level of EMT right now. And he's like, I'm not a good learner. That is not what I was born for. Physically, I'm in great shape, but I can't learn this stuff. I got to sit there. I got to read the same page over and over and over, and I got to write it down, and I got to read it again, and I got to write it down. But he's like, this is what I know. I know if I get in the sock long enough, I'm going to come out a winner. And that's where that confidence comes from, that winner mentality, that I can accomplish anything. Right? So when you are in the suck, he's like, I just tap into whatever I need to. I get that inner dialogue going and I can get through whatever life is throwing at me. Because Huberman's and Goggins had never heard of this part of the brain because this is new research that they're figuring out. So pretty interesting stuff. Anybody gone deep on this? Anybody have anything to add on this subject? I think it's super critical that you understand this to kind of make sure you know how to light that fire, that you know how to motivate yourself. Because I truly, we've tried everything on our team to motivate agents. It's not going to happen. And that's kind of what Goggins is saying. He's like, I feel like I'm just wasting my time putting this stuff out there because if you don't spend the time with yourself in your own thoughts to figure out the why and make that candle just a little bit brighter, keeps burning until you got a fire raging in there. He's like, when you listen to me, I sound like a psychopath because my fire is burning so strong inside that most people can't relate. So a little bit of a tangent today. It just I think this stuff is so important, and I hope it helps you, and I hope you can do something with it. Maybe it's hitting you at the right time. So, any thoughts? Did I just totally miss the big whiff?
No, not at all. Great takeaway.
No, I think there was just so much to it that I have so many thoughts on it.
Yeah. I think for us in leadership roles, whether that's you're a leader of the real estate team that we built here, whether you're a leader in your household, whether you're a leader, at your church or your, community, um, neighborhood, wherever it is, if you are trying to help, I think the biggest thing that you can do to help is get people to spend some time with their own thoughts to figure out how big is that fire and how do they get that thing to light up. Because after listening, it was I don't know, 2 hour episode, Huberman Goggins. I think he's right. And we've tried it all, right? So I kind of is really resonating that, like, we've tried to motivate agents, or it's just like either agents come in and they are motivated and they have their why and they're going to go crush it, or it's just very easy to get up and go, why make the calls today? I'll make them tomorrow. And he's just at that point where he's like, I'm in super shape right now. Why do you still need to go run 100 miles in a day? Because the minute he said, and this is what the research shows, he's like, I don't love getting up and running 100 miles. Still sucks today. And I've done it thousands of times. I don't love running. I do it because I know that the willpower and the motivation and that fire that's burning comes from doing the stuff that sucks. And I don't ever want to go back to being that person that I was. We can stay here for a bit, or we can just move on to home inspections. Any other thoughts, questions, something resonating? Hey, you know what? I've been studying this too, and here's what I've learned, and I'd love to share with the group, anything like that. All right. Well, I know you guys all joined for some real estate today and not self-help with David Goggins and Andrew Huberman. But that's what you got this morning. So, all right, John, Todd, what do you guys got for us?
Well, we're going to talk about basements. But does anyone have a topic that they want to cover that happened to you over the last week? Anybody run into anything? All right, that's good. No issues. I'm going to turn it over to Todd.
Good morning. So just wanted to talk a little bit about basements. As you enter the basement, the first thing you're going to notice is the smell of the basement and the lighting. So as you walk down the stairs, the smell is going to hit you if you have that overwhelming smell of what people consider a basement smell, the moisture, that sort of thing. That's a trigger right there. Lighting, and then the first thing I do is walk around the basement and just see what's there. I mean, it's a very simple first brush of what you're going to actually be looking for in detail. But the biggest thing is the smell when you walk down there, musty and that sort of thing. And I think every agent can understand that if the house has been closed up for a while, almost every basement's going to smell musty because you need air exchange. So the best thing an agent can do is open the doors and air it out a little bit before the clients come in the inspection. But the inspection is visual. We will see if there's any cause for the moisture and that sort of thing. But that's your first brush. That's the first thing you're looking for, and the first thing you're using your senses for as you go into the basement. And then you can
Todd,
get
I want to pause there for a second. We hear about when you got the high levels of oh, why am I drawing a blank? Where you got to put the vent in your basement.
Right.
But radon, right? So, hey, let's get the radon out with one of those ventilation systems. Has there ever been, or is anybody doing any kind of new construction where there's just a ventilation system built into the basement? You know, to help with like that aeration and you know, just like you do with your attic. Is there any kind of systems that are just like, hey, this is kind of coming, this is new technology, but you know, I don't know, just throwing it out there if you guys have heard of anything. It almost seems like it might make some sense to just normally ventilate a basement.
What they're doing is stubbing it up so they can tie into it for the new construction is typically what we've seen.
So for like radon, they'll have a spot in case you do get radon that you could tap into. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But no like thoughts of just like generally we should ventilate our basements. That's not a thing.
Not typically. I always think, you know, anytime you can ventilate a space and get fresh air moving. But almost, to answer your previous question, almost every new construction has a stub out for a radon unit in the future. As most houses, new construction, they have an area where they're gonna put a sump pit, even though they may not install it, but during the construction, they'll build it. Because during construction, it's nothing to just to put a form in there and leave it open, or put a small piece of PVC through the slab and just leave it there. But the radon is a different issue because you can't see it, smell it, or anything like that. So that's very different than the musty odor. And the radon is self-contained. So you're not taking air out of the basement, you're taking air from underneath the slab. So it doesn't do anything for the ventilation in the basement itself. There are some on the market, some ventilations for the basements, and all they are is a fan that brings in fresh air in the basement, and they exhaust it almost like a the heat exchange systems, that sort of thing. But just for everyday ventilation, you want to get the humidity out, and that's the best way. It's just ventilation, just air exchange.
All right, I interrupted you there, but I was just curious. Go ahead.
Basement.
Yeah, I can't hear what he's saying.
He's said, go ahead.
So,
Trying to.
after you do your first brush in the basement, then you can start looking for the details, the stairs you go down, the railings, the set of stairs, are there guard railings? Are you gonna fall and trip off the stairs? Are the risers all the same height? And typically the last step may or may not be a full step. If they put a floor in the basement, you wanna bring that up to notify the clients. And then what's in the basement? Is it the heating system, the air conditioning, is the laundry down there? Are they gonna be carrying laundry baskets up and down the stairs? That's a little different viewpoint than if the basement is just for storage and it's an occasional use. And then you can get into the heating system, the domestic water system, the well system, or the water main coming in, the electrical system is typically down there, and the foundation. And the girders, what's holding up the house. And there's so many different things to look at in the basement. But the biggest thing for me, from the agent side, is use your eyes and use your senses to understand what needs to be looked at later. It's amazing how much the first brush will give you what you need to focus on.
I know, I think kind of maybe we take this down a direction of like some of the oddities that kind of come up and kind of get your thoughts on when these things come up, how big of a concern are they? I'll kind of kick it off with efflorescence, right? When we got the whitening on the concrete walls, which is my understanding, it's like, all right, we've got some dampness coming into the walls, then it dries out and it leaves the kind of the salts behind. As long as there's no structural damage to the walls, should anybody be concerned about seeing efflorescence? Obviously it means that your foundation's getting a little damp. What else, or should people be thinking about there?
The biggest thing to understand with the efflorescence is, yes, it's moisture coming through the walls, not water. It's not, you're gonna see water stains. It's just moisture coming through the walls, and yes, you're right, it evaporates and it leaves the minerals behind. Most of the time, there's nothing you can do about that because you're not gonna dig up the entire and excavate the whole foundation and re-waterproof the exterior. What I recommend if I see that is to, number one, look at it, make sure it doesn't become worse. Number one is put a dehumidifier in the basement, and usually that will keep that the moisture that comes through out of the basement so it doesn't create more of an issue. Some people just wipe it off the walls. You can dry lock the walls, which is a special paint, hydrostatic paint, and that will keep it at bay for a little while, usually about 5 to 7 years, and then the moisture will start working its way through. If it's just a standard basement, there's nothing structurally wrong with that. It's just moisture coming through the concrete. Concrete is porous, so there isn't, you have to install a water barrier, and if it has failed over the years, yes, you will see a little efflorescence coming through.
So one thing you mentioned in there is the dehumidifiers, and a common mistake that I've seen that I think agents should just be aware of, and I think it's probably something to point out, is when they have the dehumidifier that doesn't have a consistently draining system. It's your standard dehumidifier has a bucket which fills up, and then I don't know too many humans that are actually going to go down in the basement, empty that bucket every time, so that you've got a consistently running system. So, when you guys, these are the types of things that I think it just shows that you're an educated agent when you're, showing a property. I would mention these types of things. Hey, it smells a little damp down here. Like, they got a dehumidifier, but I noticed that it is not set up to automatically drain, right? So we can attach a hose to most of those dehumidifiers, and if it doesn't have it, you should get a newer one. You can attach a hose, and it'll go into some sort of a drain that you have. I've seen a lot of times they'll drain them into the same drain that you're using for the laundry drain. But you could tie into any drain that you've got in the basement at that point. So if you see that stuff, make sure you say something, because I just think it's an easy way to show that you're knowledgeable about the parts of a basement. So I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on dehumidifiers or moisture in the basement.
Any other issues with moisture?
And the
I
other,
mean,
and the other thing, Todd, I'd love to hear your thoughts are on is those vapor barriers, right? So sometimes you will see a basement that is studded out, it's got insulation, then it's got vapor barrier. Yay or nay, right? Now we're trapping moisture behind that vapor barrier. So what are your thoughts there?
there's a lot of things that will, well, I go back to the best thing is the ventilation and air movement. Yes, dehumidifier will get the humidity out of the basement. The insulation, if it's installed properly with the vapor barrier always facing the heating side, will do exactly what you want it to do. A lot of people put the vapor barrier in backwards in the basement, but that's not really gonna make a long-term effect as long as you got dehumidification and airflow in your basement. And as I said, just smell. The other thing I want to bring up is if you see a dehumidifier in the basement, yes, turn it on, make sure it works, make sure the bucket is empty. All the new dehumidifiers have little pumps in it, so you can run a little plastic hose anywhere you want. people will empty the buckets, and I say this to the clients all the time. You'll empty the bucket every day for the first week, and then you're gonna forget, and then you might as well not have it. So buy the ones with the little pump, you can run it from one side of the house to the other, it doesn't matter. The little plastic tube just drains anywhere, and then it will make a big difference in the quality of the air and the longevity of the house itself.
Anybody have any questions so far on what we've covered, or comments, or hey, I saw this, or this happened on one of my inspections? All right, well, what else? We got time for one more thing. Give us one more piece of knowledge on our basement inspection.
Well, there's a lot more to do in the basement, but just to reiterate, is the ventilation. And maybe next time we'll get into much more of the foundation part of the basement, and especially in Connecticut and Massachusetts, the crumbling foundation that has to be addressed, and what you're looking for and how we can bring that up. And I'll go through all those details in our next episode.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the things I'd like to cover is, should anybody be concerned with the different types of foundations, right? So maybe we cover, you've got brick, you've got block, you've got fieldstone, you've got obviously poured, do you have any particular thoughts? To me, as long as they're all, structurally sound, they can all serve the purpose. And a lot of times those older ones, they've been there for, 100 years. So what are we really concerned about? But love to get your thoughts on some of that next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. Little sidetracked this morning, a little bit of a rant, but hopefully there was some value in there for you. And I would love to hear from you guys. Like, hey, I know we don't always speak up on the call. Shoot me a message on the side. Hey, we'd like more of that, or hey, that did hit home. I didn't have any comments, but I would love feedback on how much of that stuff do you guys like kind of dribbled in here versus, hey, this is a real estate call. Let's just, let's keep it real estate. So to me, all of this stuff affects our ability to go out and do our business. If we're not right mentally, I don't think we can show up and do our job. I don't think we can be the husband that we want to be, the brother that we want to be, the father that we want to be, unless mentally we feel confident in ourselves. So I do believe it starts there. So thank you, Amanda. Appreciate your comment. So let's take a quick look at what we have for training available today. Let's see, two different trainings available: the Investor Agent Playbook, Close More Transactions and Build Wealth, and Facebook and Instagram Listing System. I don't think I've seen this one show up, so that's an interesting one. So like I always say, if you take one of these trainings, take a few notes, come back to the morning call and share what you learned. Appreciate you guys. Let's go crush our Wednesday, and we'll do this again tomorrow morning. Take care.